The ground shook beneath his feet, and Boruto saw Madara Uchiha at the peak of his power. How did he end up there? You're probably wondering because a second ago, the warmth was Konoha's son. It was an ordinary day. He trained hard, as always, seeking to surpass his own father. The late afternoon sun painted the village rooftops orange and red as Boruto threw shurikens with frightening accuracy. His sweat trickled down his forehead, and determination burned in his blue eyes. He wanted to prove that he was way more than just the shadow of the seventh Hokage. Suddenly, dude, the air in the training arena began to vibrate, as if space-time itself was tearing apart. A bluish rift opened in the sky above him, growing and pulsing with an energy he had never felt before. Something was terribly wrong, and you're about to see what it is. Boruto tried to retreat, but an invisible force pulled him toward the center of the anomaly. His feet dragged against the ground, his hands scraped the concrete, but it was useless. The gigantic portal sucked him into a terrifying void, giving him no chance to react. The sensation was like being stretched and compressed at the same time, a whirlwind of distorted colors and sounds invading his mind. The smell of ozone and something metallic filled his senses, and darkness swallowed everything for an instant. He was disoriented. Then the impact. Boruto fell hard onto scorched earth, the sound of explosions echoing around, and the smell of burnt gunpowder in the air. He opened his eyes and saw an unrecognizable landscape, filled with smoke and battle cries. Soldiers with headbands from various villages fought side by side against white, horrifying creatures. The chakra was palpable, the war was real, and it was happening right there. He recognized some symbols, but everything seemed out of place, out of time. It was then that he heard a roar that made his body freeze. Turning, Boruto saw an imposing figure, with spiky hair and glowing red eyes, whom he had only seen in history books. Madara Uchiha, in person, unleashing a power that defied reality. Madara was about to launch a devastating attack against a legion of Alliance Shinobi, and Boruto realized he needed to act, or the entire future he knew would be erased. He had one chance, but as a shinobi from the future, could he change a past that was already written? And more importantly, how would he return to his own time? The adrenaline pumped through Boruto's veins, because seeing Madara there, about to execute a devastating attack, ignited a fury in his chest. He wasn't the type to just stand by, dude, and it didn't matter if he was in a different era. Then, he shouted at Madara, but his voice was lost in the roar of the battlefield and the sound of explosions all around. He needed to get his attention, and he knew exactly how to do it in a way no one expected. He concentrated chakra in his right hand, molding a Rasengan that pulsed with intense blue energy, and charged at the legendary Uchiha without hesitation, because time was running out for the Shinobi Alliance. You could see the determination in his eyes. Madara, who had previously focused his attention on the thousands of shinobi in front of him, felt a different chakra fluctuation and turned his face to the boy. The red Sharingan eyes fixed on Boruto with cold curiosity, almost contempt. Boruto's Rasengan crashed against the invisible chakra barrier that Madara barely bothered to create, and the attack dissipated in a flash, as if it had never existed. The boy's expression was of pure shock. Madara casually raised one hand, and the air around Boruto trembled. An invisible force threw him backward with brutal violence, sending him flying back dozens of feet before crashing into a rock. Pain exploded in his body, and he coughed up blood, feeling bones grind. Boruto dragged himself, and every movement was agony. He had never felt such an absurd power gap, and this was no ordinary enemy. He tried to stand again, but his legs faltered. Madara's eyes turned back to the Alliance, because he had already dismissed Boruto as a mere fly, and was ready to finish what he started. The absurd dimension of the nightmare opened before Boruto. He wasn't just in the past, dude. He was at a critical point where history could be rewritten in the worst possible way, and Madara's lethality was unquestionable. He noticed something, an almost imperceptible glint on the rocks where he had hit, and a crazy idea began to form in his mind. He needed more time, or everything would be lost. And then he shouted at Madara again. Madara stopped, annoyed by the insect's persistence. He turned, and a macabre smile appeared on his lips as the chakra in his body expanded, because he was ready to teach Boruto a fatal lesson. Boruto felt Madara's frightening ki approaching, and knew his next move would be his last chance. He quickly pulled a scroll from his ninja pouch, and from within it, a small capsule of modern technology. It was a new scientific ninja tool prototype, a concentrated Rasengan, capable of absorbing chakra from the environment, and he activated the device by pressing a button. The object glowed with an intense blue light, pulsing in his hand. He threw the capsule towards Madara with all his might, hoping that the technology of the future could, finally, make a difference against a god of the past. The goal was simple, to explode in the Uchiha's face. But Madara didn't move, dude. He simply extended a hand, and the object stopped in midair, hovering inches from his face. A single, almost imperceptible hand seal, and Boruto's capsule began to glow insanely. The blue energy turned reddish, and in seconds exploded, but not towards Madara. It turned against Boruto himself, who barely had time to raise his arms to protect himself from the impact of his own attack. The explosion threw him back again, his body hitting the ground hard, and the pain was a hell spreading through his bones. Madara laughed, a dry, cutting sound, showing that the power difference was overwhelming. He wasn't just nullifying jutsus, he was reversing them, turning Boruto's weapon into a blow against himself. Fear became palpable, because the boy realized his advantages were useless against such power. Boruto saw Madara's chakra glow intensify, because the Uchiha was no longer playing games, and the air around him began to distort with immense force. That would be the final blow from Boruto, and you could feel the panic. Then with the last spark of desperation, he glanced at the rock. That imperceptible glint he had noticed before, a strange crack, a small spot radiating something different. He had no chakra for a grand jutsu, and his tools were useless, so he needed a plan no one expected, one that used the environment. He forced himself to stand, and the glint on the rock became his only hope. Madara was about to launch his deadly attack, but Boruto dove, rolling on the ground towards the rock, knowing that everyone's life depended on the slimmest chance he had seen. Boruto threw himself, rolling on the ground towards the rock, because Madara's last words echoed in his mind, and he had any more options. He hit the rough surface with his shoulder, and a vibrant blue light swallowed everything. The rock wasn't just a simple stone, dude. It was a hidden portal, a remnant of an ancient teleportation technique, activated by the residual chakra of the battle and the anomaly that brought Boruto. He felt his body being pulled, a sensation of overwhelming vertigo. He landed with a muffled thud in a familiar yet different forest. The smell of pine and damp earth filled his senses, and the sounds of birds were a bizarre contrast to the chaos of war. He was back in Konoha, but in a distant past. Boruto felt the soft grass beneath his wounded hands, and a distant tremor made the ground vibrate. He lifted his head and saw a calm river, and a few meters away, two young figures trained intensely, a noisy blonde and a quiet brunette. They were unmistakable, Naruto and Sasuke, still children, perhaps the age he was before all this began. Naruto stumbled while attempting a clumsy Rasengan, and Sasuke watched him, with a mixture of boredom and superiority. Boruto dragged himself, ignoring the throbbing pain because he needed to get close. "Hey, you two!" he yelled, his voice hoarse from the effort, and the boys stopped their training, turning with confused expressions. This was a critical moment. Naruto pointed a finger at him, his blue eyes wide. "Who are you, dude? And why are you all banged up?" Sasuke, meanwhile, analyzed Boruto with a suspicious gaze, his hands already near his weapons pouch. "I'm Boruto," he began, trying to sound as calm as possible. "And I come from the future. A future where Madara Uchiha almost destroyed everything." The sentence came out rushed, and the disbelief on their faces was palpable. Naruto let out a laugh, a loud and dismissive chuckle. "Future? You must have hit your head or you're some kind of lunatic." Sasuke, however, didn't laugh. He narrowed his eyes. "How do you know about Madara Uchiha?" Boruto saw his chance, because Sasuke was the more logical one, and he needed a hook. "I know Naruto will become the Hokage, and you, Sasuke, will be his shadow, the Uchiha who protects the village from the shadows." You could see the surprise in both their eyes. A sound of a branch breaking nearby made the three turn. A hooded figure watched from afar, and Boruto felt the same chakra that had pursued him earlier. The anomaly had followed him, and the situation was about to escalate. He needed them to believe him, and now it wasn't just the future at stake, it was the present too. He turned to Naruto and Sasuke, his eyes fixed on theirs. "You need to trust me. Now. This is the only chance to save the world." "We don't have time for this, Naruto," Boruto yelled, his voice laden with a brutal urgency, and pulled out two shurikens that gleamed with a metallic blue unlike normal. "Someone's coming, and they're not a friend." A shadow emerged from between the trees, and Boruto threw the shurikens in a fluid motion. They flashed and exploded into a dense green cloud of smoke, a strong chemical smell invading the air, confusing the senses of whoever was approaching. "It's a distraction jutsu to buy us time," Boruto explained, and grabbed Naruto and Sasuke by the arms. "We need to get out of here now. We can't fight him here, and you'll understand why." They ran through the trees, Naruto still confused, but Sasuke following with silent suspicion. Boruto led them to a cave hidden by a waterfall, a place he only knew from ancient historical records. "Look, I know it sounds crazy," he began, his body throbbing with pain, and you could feel the exhaustion in his voice. "But I need you to believe me, because Madara Uchiha will destroy the world if we don't stop him." Naruto scoffed, skeptical, but Sasuke said nothing, his eyes fixed on Boruto. "How do you know about Madara if he died a long time ago?" the Uchiha asked, his voice low, seeking a logical answer. Boruto took a deep breath, because this was the time to turn the tables. "Madara was revived, dude. And his power, even in an artificial body, has a weakness that no one in this time knows. It's the only way to stop him," he continued, revealing details that only the future could provide. His weakness lies in how his body was reconstructed, a point of instability in the chakra flow that keeps him in the living world. A precise strike at that point can destabilize everything. But it takes more than brute force, Boruto explained, his blue eyes fixed on theirs. It requires a combination of chakra, a Rasengan, dude, infused with a specific amount of lightning to hit the exact neural point. Naruto's eyes widened. A Rasengan? But I can't even make a proper one. Boruto smirked, because he knew this was where their story truly began. You will, and Sasuke will help you with it. If Madara wins, your future, everything we know simply ceases to exist, Boruto warned, and the gravity of his words hung in the air. There will be no Hokage, no Uchiha clan, nothing. Sasuke felt a chill. How can you be so sure? And why do you know this and we don't? He needed more. Something irrefutable. I saw the Memorial of War Heroes, Boruto replied, his voice filled with emotion. And there, Itachi Uchiha's name is revered, because he was a hero, not a traitor. Sasuke's face froze. Sasuke's gaze softened for an instant, and he realized the boy wasn't lying. So what's the plan, he asked, his voice firmer, because his brother's future depended on it. We need to find whoever resurrected Madara, Boruto revealed, and stood up, ignoring the pain. He's the one pulling the strings of fate, and in him lies the key to ending all of this. Time is running out. Boruto finished explaining about the Resurrector, and the gravity of the situation hung in the air. We need to act now, he said, his voice firm, because time was running out for everyone. They left the cave, and Boruto noticed a faint chakra trail, a trace of the hooded figure, leading to the ruins of the Uchiha village. That's where he went, he stated, and you could feel the pit in your stomach. Naruto hesitated, but Sasuke, motivated by the mention of Itachi, nodded. We have no choice, Boruto reinforced, because Madara's threat was very real and growing with each second. They ran through the forest, the silence broken only by their footsteps and the rising tension. The trees soon gave way to a devastated landscape, the ruins of the Uchiha village, full of rubble and a dark energy. The ground shook violently, and a macabre laugh echoed. Madara Uchiha, furious, emerged from the rubble, his perfect Susanoo, taking gigantic and terrifying form, looking at them with contempt. Persistent insects, Madara growled, and his scarlet gaze fixed on the three. He wouldn't give them another chance, because the boy from the future had meddled too much, and now he would pay the price. Boruto saw his chance and a crazy plan formed in his mind. Dude, Sasuke, Naruto, we're going to attack him, and you're going to aim for the left side of his chest. That's the weak spot, the unstable chakra flow I told you about. Naruto and Sasuke, shocked by Madara's appearance, hesitated for a second, but Boruto's determination was contagious. Fear turned into focus, and they prepared for the attack. I'll distract him, Boruto shouted, and charged with a pulsing blue Rasengan. Naruto and Sasuke, side by side, concentrated chakra, and a Rasengan with lightning, the perfect blow, began to form. Boruto's Rasengan hit the Susanoo, an explosion of energy that drew Madara's attention. And at that exact moment, Naruto and Sasuke launched their combined attack, a flash of light that struck the Uchiha's fragile spot. Madara's Susanoo groaned, and a crack spread across its chakra armor. A wave of pain shot through the Uchiha, who bent over, an expression of pure shock and hatred frozen on his immortal face. Madara's Susanoo shattered into thousands of purple chakra fragments, a primal, guttural scream escaping his lips as the combined Rasengan's absolute power hit the fragile spot on his chest, destabilizing the reanimation. The Uchiha's resurrected body trembled violently, blue and red sparks of chakra escaping his chest as if about to explode, and he fell to his knees, his expression of shock turning into pure hatred because he was being defeated by children. But victory came at a price, dude, because the sky above them ripped open again, and the temporal anomaly expanded terrifyingly, pulling air, earth, and chakra itself into it, because the timeline was in chaos. The hooded figure emerged from the shadows of the ruins, and the cloak fell away, revealing an ethereal being, with glowing eyes and a cold and distant chakra aura, almost like a personification of space-time itself. You could see the gravity in its gaze. You have fulfilled your purpose, Boruto Uzumaki, the entity whispered, its voice echoing directly in his mind, cold as ice, because time was distorted and now needed to be repaired. Your presence here is an anomaly, and it must be corrected. A light blue portal began to open behind Boruto, pulsing with the familiar energy of teleportation. The entity pulled him away, because every second he remained there threatened the very existence of the future. Boruto felt the pull, but his eyes met Naruto's and Sasuke's. He saw in them the hope, the innocence, and the potential of a future that he, for a brief moment, had protected. And the choice was difficult. If he stayed, dude, he could prevent the war, stop the pain, mold the destinies of his parents and Sasuke perfect. But the price would be the timeline itself, and his own future would be erased forever. The entity raised one hand, and the portal intensified. The gravitational force pulling him was brutal violence. There is no time for hesitation, it hissed, and the decision needed to be made at that exact instant. Boruto cast one last look at Madara, who lay motionless, and then at Naruto and Sasuke, who watched him with a mixture of fear and admiration. He knew what he had to do, and the decision was made. With a quick nod and a tired smile for the future heroes, Boruto dove into the portal, accepting his destiny. Because the future he knew, with its own challenges and pains, was the place to which he belonged. The blue light swallowed everything, and Boruto felt his body being stretched and compressed again. He was back in his own time, Konoha's training ground, but the temporal anomaly was still there. The air still vibrated, and the sky displayed a tiny crack, a reminder of what had happened. The anomaly didn't close completely, and that meant the threat was still present, perhaps even worse. He had saved the past, but the real danger still lurked in his own time. And Boruto knew the anomaly didn't bring him home by chance, because his game was just beginning. So, dude, Boruto's story is far from over, and he still has a long way to go to uncover what's behind this whole temporal mess. If you enjoyed this ride and want to see what happens next, drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for the next video.